There is one scene in Breaking Bad that Bryan Cranston has never been able to watch twice. Not the box cutter, not the desert, not Ozymandias. Something quieter than all of that. A scene with no music cue, no dramatic push-in, no dialogue that announces itself as the moment. Just a man standing in a doorway. The camera doesn't move. Nothing happens. Technically. And yet, Cranston filmed it once and walked away and has never gone back. Tonight, we find out why. But to get there, we have to go back to 1998. A dying man in a car. A Nevada highway going nowhere. And a writer sitting in a living room who watched that man and had a thought that changed everything. The most important creative decision in the history of television drama did not happen in a writer's room. Not in a boardroom. Not in some glass office in Burbank with a view of the hills. It happened in a living room. Vince Gilligan. Iten Joe by Josher Ba. Watching a 42-year-old character actor drive a car on The X-Files. The actor was Bryan Cranston. The episode was Drive. Gilligan wrote it himself. Cranston plays a man named Patrick Crump. His wife just died from a pressure condition so severe that if he stops moving, his skull ruptures. Crump is racist, vile, terrified. He kidnaps Mulder and forces him to keep driving because stopping means dying. And Crump is not ready to die. On paper, Crump is a villain. Objectively horrible. Nothing in the script asks you to feel for him. And yet, Cranston made you feel for him anyway. Not excuse him. Not forgive him, feel times for him, the animal fear of a man watching his world collapse, the rage of someone failed by every system that was supposed to protect him, with nowhere left to put that rage except outward. You didn't excuse it, but you felt it. And when Crump died at the end alone, in a khor, still moving, because stopping meant dying, and he drove until there was nowhere left to drive. You grieved for someone you had every reason to hate. Gilligan filed that away, the way you file away the name of a restaurant someone recommends. Casually, not urgently, just this exists. This is possible. A man can be objectively horrible and subjectively human at the same time. An actor can hold both without dropping either. 9 years passed. Then he came back to it. Lan Sen Lin Si. Gilligan is developing a show about a high school chemistry teacher who becomes a meth manufacturer. The premise sounds simple. A man with a terminal diagnosis decides, in the time he has left, to provide for his family by cooking and selling meth. He partners with a former student. Things go wrong, very wrong, and somewhere in the process of trying to do something practical, the man discovers something about himself he spent a lifetime suppressing. Gilligan needed an actor who could do something almost impossible. Not play a villain. That's easy. You lower your voice. Let your eyes go cold. Put on the costume. Audiences know how to watch villains. They know how to keep their distance. He needed someone who could play a times good man becoming one. Not evil from the start. Sympathetic genuinely. Authentically sympathetic. And then monstrous. An actor who could walk the audience across that bridge so slowly, so naturally, that they wouldn't notice they'd crossed it until they were already on the other side. He called Bryan Cranston. Every network said no. Not maybe. Not let's think about it. No, because Bryan Cranston was Hal, the dad from Malcolm in the Middle. Goofy, lovable, slightly unhinged, the guy who ran around in his underwear and cried at commercials and painted masterpieces in secret. You cannot take that man and turn him into Scarface. The audience won't buy it. The first time Hal tries to intimidate someone, people laugh. Show's dead before it starts. Gilligan pointed to Drive. Watch what this man does when you give him something real to play. Watch what happens when you stop asking him to be funny and start asking him to be human. The executives watched. Some still weren't convinced. The Malcolm problem was real audience perception sticks. And Cranston had spent 7 seasons building one of the most beloved comedic personas on television. Asking viewers to suddenly fear him was a big ask. But AMC was in the middle of building something. They'd already bet on a show about a 1960s ad executive with a secret identity. Mad Men was working. They understood gambles. They could take one on a chemistry teacher with a secret empire. They gave Gilligan his show. They gave Cranston the role. What followed, most critics, most viewers, most people who make television for a living, they call it the greatest drama ever made. Gilligan pitched Breaking Bad in 1 sentence. This is a story about a man who transforms himself from Mr. Chips into Scarface. Mr. Chips, the gentle school teacher from James Hilton's 1934 novel, devoted to his students, fundamentally decent. The teacher everyone remembers. The one who made you feel like you mattered. Scarface the violent. Egomaniacal druglord from De Palmas 1983 film. Defined by hunger and rage and the absolute refusal to accept limits. The man who looks at the world and says, all of this should be mine. 6 words. The whole show in 6 words. A good man becomes a bad man. That's it. Everything else, the cancer, the meth, the desert, the money, the lies, the empire built in the New Mexico heat. That's just the mechanism. The vehicle, the road, the destination was always the same. But here's what most people miss about that pitch. It sounds like the story of a good man forced times into darkness. Circumstances push him. Cancer, debt, desperation, no choice. That's The Sopranos. Tony was born into the mob. The life chose him before he could choose it. That's The Shield. That's every crime drama where the protagonist is sympathetic because the world gave him no other option. Gilligan's pitch is something darker. A good man chooses to do bad things. And the show will make you understand why, and you will hate yourself for understanding. That last part, times, you will hate yourself for understanding times. That's the engine. The show puts you inside Walter's head, shows you his reasoning, lets you see why every terrible decision makes a certain kind of sense when you're the one making it. When you've been overlooked and underpaid and underestimated for 30 years. When you're dying. When you've run out of time to be patient. And then, seasons later, it pulls the camera back, shows you what those decisions actually produced. Bodies, broken families, a trail of destruction stretching from Albuquerque to the Czech Republic. And it asks, when did you stop rooting for him? At what exact moment did you cross the line? Because the show crossed it so gradually that most viewers genuinely can't identify the specific scene where Walter White stopped being the protagonist and became the villain of his own story. The line moved, one rationalization at a time, and you moved with it because you were inside his head, because you were invested, because by the time the line had moved far enough to see, you were already on the wrong side of it. For some people, the line was Jane's death. Season 2, Episode 12. Walter watches Jane choke on her own vomit and does nothing. He could save her. He is standing right there. He watches Hardy, and the audience, which has spent 20 episodes rationalizing Walter's behavior, he's doing it for his family. He's a dying man. He has no choice. Times gets forced to confront something it's been avoiding. This man just let a young woman die because her existence was inconvenient. Not because she was a threat, because Jesse loved her, and Jesse's love for her was pulling Jesse away from Walter, and Walter needed Jesse, and so Jane had to go. The calculation was that simple. The execution was that cold. For others, the line came later. The poisoning of Brock, a child. The murder of Mike, killed in a moment of ego because Walter couldn't tolerate being told no. The prison killings 10 men in 2 minutes. A logistical operation. A problem solved. The show kept crossing lines. The audience kept finding reasons to stay, which is, honestly, the most disturbing thing about Breaking Bad. Not that Walter White became a monster, that millions of people watched him become one and kept hoping he'd get away with it. Cranston understood this. You don't realize you've been pulled into his orbit until you're already there, he said, and by then, you're invested. You've made excuses for him. You've rationalized his behavior, and when the show finally confronts you with what he's actually done, you have to confront what you've actually accepted. What you've actually accepted, sit with that for a second. The show isn't just asking you to watch Walter White. It's asking you to watch yourself watching Walter White, to notice the excuses you make, to notice the moment you stopped noticing, to ask yourself honestly, uncomfortably, whether the line you drew was a moral line or just a line of convenience. That's what Breaking Bad is really about. Not chemistry, not the drug trade. A man who became a monster. And an audience that watched him do it and called it entertainment. Now Walter's arc, season by season, because most analyses of this show get something wrong right at the start. They begin with the cancer. The cancer is not where this story starts. Walter White is 50 years old when the show begins. Genius level intellect. The kind that, in a different life, if the breaks fell differently, might have led somewhere extraordinary. He co-founded a company called Gray Matter Technologies in his 20s. He was there at the beginning, helped build it from nothing. The name itself is a combination of his last name, White, and his co-founder's name, Schwartz, which means black in German. White and black, gray matter, the stuff the brain is made of. By the time Breaking Bad starts, gray matter is worth over $2 billion. Walter left, or was pushed out. The show stays deliberately vague about which, because Walter's version and the truth are probably not the same thing. And the show knows that, and it wants you to know that it knows that. What isn't vague is what happened after. He became a high school chemistry teacher in Albuquerque, drives a Pontiac Aztec automotive journalist, consistently ranked it one of the ugliest vehicles ever made. A car so comprehensively uncool it became cultural shorthand for giving up. Lives in a modest house. Works a second job at a car wash on weekends, where former students occasionally come in and laugh at him. Pregnant wife, teenage son with cerebral palsy, who worships his father with an uncomplicated devotion. Walter has never quite known what to do with. Brother-in-law who makes more money, drinks more beer, takes up more space in every room he enters. Walter White is a man who has been quietly furious for 30 years. The cancer doesn't create that fury. It just gives it a door. This is the distinction, the single most important one in the entire show that separates Breaking Bad from every other anti-hero story. The cancer is not the cause. It's the permission slip. Walter was always capable of becoming Heisenberg. The darkness was always there, banked and waiting, held in place by the ordinary constraints of ordinary life, the mortgage, the job, the family, the social contract that says you don't do the things you want to do because there are consequences and you are afraid of consequences. The cancer removes the consequences. If you're dying anyway, what exactly are you afraid of? Season 1, Walter is desperate. Yes, but watch his face when he cooks meth for the first time in Jesse's RV in the desert. The show wants you to see fear. And there is fear, absolutely. But underneath the fear, something that Cranston plays with such restraint, you might miss it on first watch and cannot unsee on the second. Satisfaction, the deep, bone-level satisfaction of a craftsman doing the work he was born to do. Walter has been teaching high school chemistry for 15 years, explaining the periodic table to teenagers who don't care, grading papers that don't matter, watching students forget everything he taught them the moment they walk out the door. And now, in a rolling meth lab in the New Mexico desert, he is doing chemistry that times matters. Chemistry that requires everything he has. His product is 99.1% pure, a number that is essentially impossible, a number that will eventually make his name legendary in the trade. He is good at this. He has always been good at this. The meth is just chemistry. and chemistry is the one thing in Walter White's life that has never let him down. Season 2, Walter starts lying, not just to the world, to himself. The lies get more elaborate, the rationalizations more creative. Each terrible act requires a more sophisticated justification, and Walter provides those justifications with the same precision he brings to his chemistry. He is, after all, a scientist. He understands cause and effect. He understands that every action has consequences, and he has become extraordinarily skilled at constructing narratives where the consequences of his actions are always someone else's fault. He lets Jane and then this is what season 2 is really building toward. He watches a plane crash. Jane's father, Donald Margolis, is an air traffic controller. After Jane's death, he goes back to work too soon, still deep in grief, still not functional. He makes an error that causes 2 planes to collide over Albuquerque. Wayfarer Femhundreda of Fempton and JM in Otuva. 267 people die. Walter didn't cause the crash. Not directly, but he caused Jane's death. Jane's death caused Donald's grief. Donald's grief caused the crash. The chain is clear. If indirect, Walter is not responsible for 267 deaths, but he is not times responsible either. His response is to give a speech at the school assembly about how the crash, statistically speaking, wasn't that bad compared to other aviation disasters. He is standing in front of children, minimizing a mass casualty event he indirectly caused, and the camera watches his face as he says it. Cranston holds the scene with a numbness that is more terrifying than any rage could be. Walter has learned to look at destruction and see statistics, to look at bodies and see data points, to stand in front of the evidence of what his choices produced and calculate whether anyone can connect it back to him. That is not a symptom of cancer. That is a symptom of something that was always there, waiting for the right conditions. Season 3 introduces Gustavo Fring. In the Walter-Gus dynamic, I think it's the best antagonist relationship in television history. Not because of the violence, not because of the chess match, because of what Gus times represents times to Walter on a psychological level. Gus is everything Walter wants to be. Disciplined where Walter is reactive, patient where Walter is impulsive, invisible where Walter craves recognition. Gus runs a drug empire worth hundreds of millions behind the facade of a fast food chain. He shakes hands with DEA agents at charity fundraisers. He smiles. He is calm. He is, in every measurable way, better at this than Walter. He built the empire Walter is trying to build. Earlier, more carefully, more completely, without the ego, without the need for acknowledgement, without the compulsion to be seen. And that is exactly why Walter cannot tolerate him. Walter's fatal flaw is not greed, not violence, not even ambition. Exactly, it's pride, the specific, corrosive, all-consuming pride of a man who spent 30 years being underestimated and has decided finally, that he will not be underestimated anymore. He cannot accept being second best, cannot accept working for someone, cannot accept that another person's empire is better than one he could build himself, especially when that person is calm times about it. When that person doesn't even seem to need the validation. When that person has achieved everything Walter wants and wears it as lightly as a fast food uniform. Walter doesn't kill Gus because Gus threatens his family. The show gives him that rationalization, and he takes it gratefully because it's a good one. It sounds like love, sounds like protection, sounds like a father doing what a father has to do. But the truth is simpler and uglier. Walter kills Gus because Gus is proof that Walter is not the smartest person in the room. And Walter White cannot live in a room where he is not the smartest person. Before we go further, there's a speech in season 4 that gets quoted constantly. T-shirts, memes, political speeches, a speech that almost everyone who quotes it misreads entirely. Season 4, Episode Sex. Skyler tells Walter she's afraid. Afraid of Gus Fring. Afraid someone might come to the house. She's asking her husband, the man she married, the man she's raising children with, to tell her they're safe. Walter erupts. Not at Gus. At Skyler, at the idea, the intolerable, humiliating idea that he is someone who needs to be afraid. I am not in danger. Skyler, I am the danger. A guy opens his door and gets shot. And you think that of me? No. I am the one who knocks. The internet heard power, dominance, a man declaring his status. Fans quote it as a badass moment. T-shirts, print it. It's been invoked in corporate presentations. It's become one of the most iconic monologues in television history. Now watch the scene again. Not Walter's face. Skyler's. She is not impressed, not reassured, not looking at her husband with new respect. She is terrified, not of Gus Fring, of the man standing in her kitchen, because Walter is not protecting his family in that moment. He is threatening his wife. He's so consumed by his need to feel powerful to be the danger instead of the endangered, that he's confused intimidating the person who loves him with being strong. He's confused making his wife afraid with being a man worth being afraid of. The speech is not a declaration of power. It's a symptom of insecurity so deep that Walter needs the people closest to him to fear him in order to feel safe. And here's the detail. Most people miss the one Cranston buried so carefully you have to be looking for it. There is a tremor in his voice. Not much, just enough. The I am the one who knocks line wavers. Slightly, almost imperceptibly, but it's there. Walter is performing Heisenberg for Skyler's benefit, putting on the costume, delivering the lines, and the performance isn't quite solid. The mask slips for half a second, and in that crack, that tiny, almost invisible crack, you can see the man behind the monster, a scared, cancer-ridden chemistry teacher in his 50s, pretending to be a drug lord, because the pretending gives him something the truth doesn't. Control. That is the genius of Cranston's performance across the whole series. He never plays Walter as simply evil, never plays Heisenberg as a costume Walter puts on and takes off. He plays Walter as a man pretending to be evil because the pretending gives him something the truth doesn't, the feeling of being in control of something. Anything. Walter White has never been in control of anything. Not his career stolen by his account, by former partners Elliot and Gretchen, who built a billion-dollar company on his work and cut him out before the money arrived. Not his health taken by cancer, by a body that betrayed him without warning. Not his family, which doesn't respect him, which has organized itself around his absence rather than his presence. Heisenberg is Walter's attempt to control something, even if that something is the meth trade of the American Southwest. The empire is not about money. It's about the feeling of being a person who matters, of walking into a room and having the room change because you walked into it. The feeling, the specific, irreplaceable feeling of being the smartest person present, the most dangerous person present, the person whose name other people say with a particular quality in their voice. That feeling is addictive, more addictive than anything he produces. And the tragedy, the real one, the one the show is actually about, is that by the time Walter understands this about himself, he has destroyed everything the feeling was supposed to protect. Now, Gus Fring, I've been building toward this because what Giancarlo Esposito does in this role is one of the most technically precise acting achievements in television history. And it starts with a box cutter. Giancarlo Esposito's performance as Gus Fring doesn't get enough credit because it looks effortless. Gus barely raises his voice, barely moves his face. He conveys menace through stillness, through the specific quality of attention he brings to every interaction, through the way his eyes process information without revealing what he's doing with it. He is calm the way very deep water is calm, not because nothing is happening beneath the surface, but because whatever is happening is too large and too controlled to disturb it. The quiet villain is always more frightening than the loud one. The loud villain is performing for you. The quiet villain doesn't need to perform. The stick is big enough that the voice doesn't need to be. Season 4, episode It. The box cutter scene. Gus walks into the meth lab, puts on a hazmat suit methodically, carefully, the way a professional puts on protective equipment before doing a job, picks up a box cutter, walks over to Victor, one of his own employees, a man who has been loyal, who has done nothing wrong except cook meth without authorization and slits his throat. No warning, no speech, no music, sting, no camera move that announces what's about to happen. He just does it. Then he changes his clothes, washes his hands, looks at Walter and Jesse and Mike standing there covered in Victor's blood, unable to process what they just witnessed, and says quietly, almost gently, "Well, get back to work," and walks out. 4 minutes. No raised voice. No change in expression. In those 4 minutes, Gus communicates everything. I will kill anyone, without hesitation, without remorse. People who work for me, people who are loyal to me, people who have done nothing wrong. I will do it calmly. I will clean up afterward. And then I will expect productivity to resume. 4 minutes. That is Gus Fring. Esposito has talked about how he prepared for that scene. The key, he said, was finding the administrative quality of the violence. Make it feel like a manager dealing with a minor operational issue. Not rage, not punishment, maintenance. You identify the problem. You remove it. You move on. That administrative quality is what makes it terrifying. Not the blood, the paperwork, energy. Season 4 is the chess match between Walter and Gus. And it's the peak of Breaking Bad's writing. Every episode is a move and a counter move. Walter schemes. Gus anticipates. Walter adapts. Gus adapts faster. Walter is brilliant, genuinely. Extraordinarily brilliant, but Gus is brilliant times and times patient. And patience is the one quality Walter has never been able to sustain. Walter needs to win now. Gus is willing to wait. The audience is watching two geniuses playing a game where the loser dies. And for most of the season, it genuinely isn't clear who's going to win. That uncertainty, real, sustained. Episode after episode is what makes season 4 so compelling. You know Walter survives because the show is about Walter. But you don't know how. And the how is everything. The resolution Walter using Hector Salamanca as a suicide bomber to kill Gus is the most Heisenberg moment in the entire show. Walter doesn't pull the trigger himself, doesn't even enter the building. He finds a dying old man, Hector Salamanca, a former cartel boss reduced to a wheelchair and a bell, who cannot speak, who cannot move, who has nothing left except his hatred of Gus Fring, and turns that hatred into a weapon. Straps a bomb to the wheelchair, sits at a safe distance, watches someone else's pain do the work. That is Walter White at his most terrifying. Not when he's violent, when he's efficient, when he looks at a broken, dying, suffering human being and sees a tool. Now let me tell you about Jesse Pinkman. Because the story of how Aaron Paul survived a death sentence is one of the most important behind-the-scenes stories in television history. And it is a story about what happens when a writer underestimates an actor. Jesse was supposed to die in season 1, not speculation. Gilligan has confirmed it repeatedly in interviews, DVD commentaries, the Breaking Bad Insider podcast. The plan was for Jesse to be killed in a drug deal gone wrong around episode 9. His death would fuel Walter's descent. Jesse was a plot device, a disposable partner, cannon fodder with a vocabulary problem and a fondness for the word yo. And then Aaron Paul ruined everything in the best possible way. Paul brought something to Jesse that the script didn't contain and couldn't have contained because it wasn't a quality you can write. It was a quality you can only find in a specific human being doing a specific thing in a specific moment. Vulnerability. not performed vulnerability, not the kind that announces itself. The real thing, the kind that makes you look away because it feels too private to watch. Jesse was written as a low-level drug dealer, a burnout, a punchline, a cautionary tale in a backwards cap. Paul played him as a kid, a scared, lonely, desperate kid who fell into drugs because nobody told him he was worth anything, not his parents, not his teachers, not the world that looked at him and saw exactly what it expected to see and nothing more. A kid who stayed in drugs because by the time he realized it was destroying him, he didn't know any other way to live, who organized his entire identity around being the person the world said he was, because at least that was something, at least that was a self. Paul's Jesse doesn't sell meth because he's a criminal. He sells meth because the world told him that was all he was good for. And he believed it. The chemistry between Cranston and Paul, and there is no way around the pun, so I'm not going to try, is the backbone of the entire series. Not the meth, not the violence, not the cat and mouse with Hank. The relationship between Walter and Jesse is what the show is actually about, and it is the most toxic mentorship in television history. Walter needs Jesse because Jesse does the physical work, the distribution, the street-level operations, the parts of the business that require someone willing to get their hands dirty in ways that Walter, for all his darkness, still finds beneath him. Jesse needs Walter because Walter is the first adult in Jesse's life who has ever treated him like he's capable of something, who looked at him and saw potential rather than a write-off. Even toxic attention is better than no attention at all. Even a teacher who uses you as a tool is better than a world that doesn't see you. The show tracks the inversion of their relationship across 5 seasons with a structural precision that I find genuinely beautiful, the way a well-constructed tragedy is beautiful. Not because it makes you happy, because it makes you feel the weight of what's being lost. Season 1, Walter is the sympathetic character. Jesse is the liability. The audience is with Walter. Watching Jesse through Walter's eyes, a problem to manage, a resource to exploit, an inconvenience that is, unfortunately, necessary. Season 5, Jesse is the moral center. Walter is the monster. The audience has shifted slowly, painfully, reluctantly from the teacher to the student. Jesse has become the person we root for. Not because Jesse is good, he's done terrible things. Things he will carry for the rest of his life. But because Jesse is the only character in the show who feels genuine remorse, who experiences his actions as moral events rather than operational variables, who cannot look at what he has done and calculate whether it was worth it. Walter rationalizes. Jesse grieves. Grief means you know something was wrong. Rationalization means you've decided it wasn't. Paul won 3 Emmy Awards for this role. 3 for a character who was supposed to die in episode 9 of season 1. For cannon fodder with a vocabulary problem, the character who was too good to kill became the emotional heart of the series and earned his actor more recognition than anyone else in the cast. Television writers keep underestimating their casting departments. They write characters to die. Cast actors who are too good for the role, then have to rewrite the show around the problem of having someone too valuable to kill. It happened with Joe Keery in Stranger Things, Ed Helms in The Office, most famously, Aaron Paul in Breaking Bad. The lesson, if there is one, the script is not the show. The show is what happens when the right human being reads the script. Let me talk about Hank Schrader. Dean Norris's performance is the most underappreciated acting achievement in the series. Not the most celebrated, that's Cranston. Not the most awarded, that's Paul. The most underappreciated, the performance that does the most work for the least recognition. Hank starts the show as comic relief, the loud brother-in-law, the beer-drinking, joke-cracking DEA agent who collects minerals, not rocks, minerals. There is a difference, and Hank will explain it to you at length whether you want him to or not, whose primary function in Season 1 is to make Walter feel small at family gatherings. Hank is everything Walter isn't. Confident, physical, successful in a conventionally masculine way. He takes up space. He makes noise. He is the guy who gets the laughs. Walter is the guy who smiles politely while being laughed at. But the show slowly reveals something. Hank's confidence is as much a performance as Walter's meekness. After the shootout with Tuco in Season 2, violent, chaotic, ending with Tuco dead and Hank standing in the desert covered in blood, Hank develops panic attacks. Can't function, can't go back to work. He is terrified, genuinely, deeply terrified, and he hides it from everyone because his entire identity is built on being the tough guy, the one who doesn't flinch, the one who walks into danger and comes out the other side with a story to tell. If the tough guy admits he's afraid what's left, this is a mirror of Walter. Both men performing versions of themselves that don't match their interior reality. Walter performs meekness while hiding ambition. Hank performs toughness while hiding fear. Both performances are exhausting. Both are unsustainable. Both require constant maintenance, constant vigilance against the moment when the real self might show through. And when both finally collapse, Walter's in a kitchen in the final episode. Hank's in a desert in Season 5. What's underneath is not what anyone expected. Hank's finest moment as a character is not the confrontation with Walter in the garage. That scene is extraordinary. The moment Hank finally says out loud what he's known for months. Looks at his brother-in-law and says, "Times I don't know who you are. I don't even know who I'm talking to." Extraordinary, but not Hank's finest moment. Hank's finest moment is a quiet scene in Season 3. He is recovering from his injuries sustained in an attack by the cousins. 2 cartel assassins who nearly killed him. Hospital bed. Cannot walk. Cannot work. Cannot be the tough DEA agent who walks into danger and comes out with a story. He has been stripped of every identity he ever used to define himself. And he picks up a mineral, examines it, turns it over in his hands, studies it the way he has studied minerals in his spare time for years with the quiet, methodical attention of someone who finds genuine pleasure in understanding how things are made. Nothing happens. Nothing is said. The scene has no plot function. It advances nothing. But what you're watching is a man rebuilding himself from the smallest possible unit. He can't walk. He can't work. He can't be who he was. So he starts with a rock, studies it, understands it, builds knowledge from the ground up, one mineral at a time, one small piece of the world understood and filed away. And that same methodical patience, the patience of a man who finds meaning in small, careful acts of understanding, is what eventually leads Hank to discover that Walter White is Heisenberg. Not through toughness, not through a dramatic confrontation or a brilliant deduction, through attention, through the slow accumulation of details that don't quite add up. A book in a bathroom, a name and a dedication, a connection that shouldn't exist. Hank looks at evidence the way he looks at minerals, carefully, without rushing, willing to sit with uncertainty until the picture becomes clear. The minerals taught Hank how to see, and what he saw, when he finally saw it, destroyed him. Now the Skyler Debate, because it tells you something important, genuinely important. Something that goes beyond the show itself, about the audience that consumed Breaking Bad and what that audience revealed about itself in the process. Anna Gunn, who plays Skyler White, received death threats, real death threats, from real people sent to her personally, to her social media, to her management. Because her character, a woman whose husband secretly became a drug manufacturer, who lied to her for years, who put her children in danger, who murdered people, was perceived by a significant portion of the audience as an obstacle to Walter's empire. Someone getting in the way. The problem, Gunn wrote an op-ed in the New York Times about it. She described the hatred as deeply unsettling and asked what it said about the audience's relationship to female characters who challenge male protagonists. Her argument, which I think is correct, and which the show itself supports, is that Skyler is hated not because she's a bad character, but because she's a good one. She is the moral counterweight to Walter. The person who says this is wrong when everyone else is either ignorant or complicit, who looks at what Walter is doing and names it not with the language of the drug trade, not with Walter's rationalizations, but with the simple, clear language of a person who has not been inside Walter's head long enough to be corrupted by it. This is wrong. This is dangerous. This is not who we are. This is not what I agreed to. And the audience, which has been inside Walter's head for seasons, programmed by the show to see the world through Walter's eyes, transfers its frustration with the moral constraints of reality onto the character who represents those constraints. We don't want to be told it's wrong. We want Walter to win. And Skyler keeps telling us it's wrong. So we hate her. Not because she's wrong, because she's inconvenient. Because she is the part of us that knows better. And we don't want to know better. We want the empire. We want the power. We want the feeling of being the smartest, most dangerous person in the room. And Skyler keeps standing in the kitchen saying, "This will destroy us. This will destroy everything." The hatred of Skyler White is the audience's complicity made visible. You don't hate Skyler because she's a bad character. You hate her because she's right. And being confronted with someone who is right when you've spent seasons choosing to be wrong is intolerably. Gilligan said it directly. I think that Walter White became our hero, and Skyler had the audacity to stand in the way of what we perceived as Walter White's happiness and success. He paused. And that's on us, not on the character. That's on us, not on the character. There is one episode of Breaking Bad that divides fans more than any other. Season 3, Episode T. Fly. An entire hour in the meth lab. Walter trying to kill a fly that has contaminated the cook. That is the episode. A man and a fly in a room. No cartel. No DEA. No empire building. No violence. Just two men. A lab. And an insect. Fans either love it or skip it on rewatch. The people who hate it see filler a bottle episode produced to save money, keeping the action in a single location. Nothing happening. No plot movement. An hour of television that could have been 30 minutes or 15 minutes or nothing at all. Both readings are partially right. Fly was written partly as a budget-saving measure. Gilligan has acknowledged this. Single location, 2 actors significantly cheaper than the show's usual production. The constraint was real, but Gilligan and writer Sam Catlin used the constraint as an opportunity to do something the show almost never does. Slow down, stop the plot entirely. Put 2 characters in a room with nothing to do except talk. Let them circle around the things they can't say. Let them approach the truth and veer away. Let them be human with each other in the way that the plot, when it's moving, never quite allows. The conversation that emerges is the most honest exchange between Walter and Jesse in the entire series. Walter, delirious from exhaustion and sleep deprivation, nearly confesses to letting Jane die. He talks around it, approaches the confession from different angles, circling it the way he's circling the fly, getting close, then backing away. Getting close again. He says things that almost say it, asks Jesse questions that almost ask it. He is standing at the edge of the truth and cannot quite make himself step off. Jesse listens, doesn't fully understand what Walter is almost saying. Here's a man who is tired and strange and saying things that don't quite add up, and responds with the patience of someone who has learned to wait out Walter's stranger moments. But the audience understands, and the tension of that almost confession, the words hovering in the air between them, never quite landing, never quite becoming real, is more dramatic than any explosion, more devastating than any death, because it is the moment when Walter could have told the truth, when the truth was right there, available, possible. When Jesse was in the room and the door was closed and the world was quiet enough for honesty, and Walter chose not to. Fly is a Rorschach test. If you need plot to stay engaged, if television for you is about what happens, it bores you. If you can sit in a room with 2 characters and find the drama in what they cannot say to each other if television, for you, is about who people are. It is one of the best episodes of the show ever made. I land firmly in the second camp, but I understand the first. We've been moving through this story for a while now, through the origin, the transformation, the relationships that shaped it, and the performances that made it real. And we've been circling all night around the episode that everything builds toward. Rian Johnson directed it. Moira Wally Beckett wrote it. 58 minutes long. More genuine tragedy than most films manage in 2 hours. Named after a poem about a fallen king. We're there now, season 5, episode Fjorton, Ozymandias. The title comes from a Shelley sonnet. Itin Babai Yisherba, a traveler encounters. In the middle of a vast desert, the ruins of a statue. 2 enormous stone legs standing alone. A shattered face half buried in the sand. And on the pedestal, an inscription. My name is Ozymandias, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty. And despair, nothing beside remains. The empire is gone. The works the king was so proud of, the things he built, the power he accumulated, the name he made are dust. Only the boast remains. A declaration of greatness that has become, in the absence of everything it was supposed to describe, an epitaph. That is, this episode, everything Walter built collapses in 58 minutes. Hank dies, Walter's brother-in-law, the DEA agent who spent 5 seasons pursuing a drug lord named Heisenberg without knowing Heisenberg, was sitting across from him at family dinners, eating his wife's cooking, watching football on his couch, borrowing his tools. Hank figures it out, confronts Walter in the garage, arrests him, calls the DEA, and in the desert, the same desert where Walter and Jesse cooked their first batch in a rolling lab 5 seasons ago, everything comes apart. Jack Welker's gang arrives, guns drawn. Hank, standing in the desert with a gun pointed at him, is given a choice: walk away or D. Walter screams, begs, offers everything: the money, the location of the buried barrels, everything he built, everything he destroyed his family to accumulate. He is on his knees in the dirt, screaming at Jack Welker to let his brother-in-law live. It isn't enough. Hank's final words delivered to Walter, written for the audience, are these: "You're the smartest guy I ever met. And you're too stupid to see he made up his mind 10 minutes ago. You're too stupid to see. The show has been telling you who Walter is for 5 seasons. Hank saw it. You saw it. Walter never did. And now it's too late. Dean Norris has talked about filming that scene. The key, he said, was finding peace, not terror, not anger, not the desperate bargaining of a man who doesn't want to die. Acceptance. Hank knows he's going to die. He's known it for the last 10 minutes. And in his final moments, instead of begging, He chooses the one thing Walter has never been able to choose: dignity. My name is Azak Schrader, he tells Jack Welker, and you can go to hell. Then he looks at Walter, delivers the smartest guy line, and then he is shot. The man who spent his career chasing the Heisenberg bogeyman dies knowing it was his brother-in-law the whole time. His last act is not horror at the betrayal, not grief, not rage, clarity. He finally sees Walter clearly, and the seeing is enough. Cranston's performance in the desert sequence is the most physically demanding work of his career. The screaming, the collapsing, the way he crawls across the ground toward the spot where Hank fell, as if proximity to the body might undo what just happened. He is not acting. He is disintegrating. Watching Cranston in that scene is like watching a building demolition in slow motion. The structure holds for a moment. The supports give out one by one, and then everything collapses inward, all at once, into the space where the building used to be. Walter doesn't just lose Hank in that desert. He loses the last piece of the fiction he's been maintaining for 5 seasons. The fiction that this was all for family, that the Empire was a gift, that the darkness was love in disguise. His family is now destroyed times by times his choices. Not threatened, not endangered, destroyed. Hank is dead. Skyler is a suspect. Walt Jr. will never look at his father the same way again. Holly will grow up not knowing who her father was, which is, in some ways, the kindest possible outcome. The lie is over. The Empire is dust. And then the phone call. Walter, now a fugitive, calls Skyler from a payphone, knowing the police are listening. He delivers a monologue that sounds, on its surface, like the rantings of an abusive, controlling husband. The language is cruel, aggressive. He calls her a stupid bitch, tells her she has no right to question anything he does. He sounds, to anyone listening, like a man who has been controlling and terrorizing his wife for years. First-time viewers recoil, and then if you're paying attention, if you're listening to the voice underneath the voice, you realize what Walter is doing. He's performing, putting on a show for the police who are listening, making himself sound like a monster, a controlling, abusive husband who forced his innocent wife into compliance through fear and intimidation so that Skyler can plausibly claim she was a victim. So she won't be charged as an accessory. So the law will look at her and see a woman who was afraid, not a woman who was complicit. Walter's final act of love is to destroy his own image. He makes himself the villain of their marriage so Skyler can be the victim. Says the cruelest things he can think of. In the most convincing way he can manage, so the people listening will believe Skyler had no choice but to go along with whatever Walter told her to do. And the tears running down his face while he does it, tears the police can't see, because they're on the other end of a phone line, because they can only hear the words and not the face tell you the truth that the words are designed to hide. That phone call is the single best written scene in the series. Not the most dramatic, not the most shocking, the best written. It works on two levels simultaneously. Abusive tirade on the surface, sacrifice underneath. First-time viewers miss the sacrifice entirely. They see only the cruelty. Second-time viewers see both. And the gap between those two experiences, between what you think is happening and what is actually happening, is the gap that defines Breaking Bad as a show. The gap between surface and truth, between what Walter says and what Walter means, between the performance and the person performing it. This brings me to something I think about a lot when I think about Breaking Bad. Rewatchability. Breaking Bad is a completely different experience the second time. The first time, you're watching a thriller. The tension is in the plot. Will Walter get caught? Will the cook work? Will Hank figure it out? The second time, you know the plot. The tension is gone. So you watch something else. You watch the characters, and what you see on rewatch is devastating in a way the first viewing can't prepare you for. You can see the lies forming. You can watch Walter's face in season 1-inch scenes where he appears sympathetic, where the show is asking you to feel for him and see the calculation beginning, the tiny flicker in his eyes when someone underestimates him. Not hurt, opportunity, the slight quickening of his attention when a plan starts to take shape. The micro-expressions Cranston buried so carefully that they're invisible on first viewing and everywhere on second. You can watch Jesse's trust building and know exactly how it will be betrayed. Watch Hank examining his minerals and know that the patience he's building will eventually lead him to the truth, and the truth will kill him. Watch Skyler in the early seasons before she knows, before she suspects, before the world she thought she lived in has been revealed as a fiction, and feel the specific grief of watching someone who doesn't know what you know. The dramatic irony of a rewatch transforms Breaking Bad from a crime drama into a tragedy. Tragedies are more powerful when you already know the ending. Cranston has talked about this. He said he played certain scenes differently knowing where Walter would end up, that even in season 1, when Walter appears sympathetic, he buried tiny signals of the Heisenberg to come. A glance that lingers too long on a possibility. A moment of satisfaction after a cook that's slightly too intense. Slightly too private. Slightly too much like pleasure and not enough like relief. A stillness when someone crosses him that is not the stillness of a man absorbing an insult, but the stillness of a man filing information away. The monster was always there. Cranston just hid it behind a pair of glasses and a cough. The show's relationship with Better Call Saul deserves a mention, because the prequel does something no prequel has ever done. It makes the original better. Not the way prequels usually claim to add depth, by providing backstory that explains things that didn't need explaining. Better Call Saul adds depth by expanding the world, by showing you the infrastructure that Walter walks into, the history that precedes him, the people who were already there before he arrived and who will still be there in some form after he's gone. Better Call Saul tells the story of Jimmy McGill becoming Saul Goodman, but it also recontextualizes Gus Fring, Mike Ehrmantraut, the entire cartel infrastructure. After watching it, you understand the world Walter walks into differently. You understand what Gus built and how long it took, what Mike gave up to be who he is, the weight of the world that Walter stumbles into with his chemistry degree and his ego and his absolute certainty that he is the smartest person in any room. The prequel doesn't add plot to Breaking Bad. It adds depth. It's like looking at a painting you've seen 1,000 times and someone hands you a microscope. The painting hasn't changed. What you can see has multiplied. The two shows together, over 120 episodes, one unbroken story arc from Jimmy McGill losing his brother to Walter White dying on the floor of a meth lab, constitute what many critics consider the greatest continuous television narrative ever produced. The scope is Dickensian, and the fact that two creators sustained a single narrative vision across over a decade of production, across two different shows, across hundreds of hours of television. That is an achievement I genuinely believe will not be matched in my lifetime. Let me talk about color. Breaking Bad's use of color is the most deliberate and systematic in television history. And once you see it, once someone points it out and you understand what you've been looking at, you cannot unsee it. Every rewatch becomes a different kind of experience. Not just emotional, visual. You start reading the screen the way you read a page. Every character is assigned a color palette, and that palette shifts as their morality shifts. Walter starts the series in beige and khaki, neutral, invisible, the colors of a man who has decided, consciously or not to be noticed, not to take up space, not to announce himself, the colors of someone who has made peace or something that looks like peace with being ordinary. As he transforms into Heisenberg, his wardrobe darkens. Greens appear, then darker greens, then, in season 5, almost exclusively black. The color of his Heisenberg hat, the color of his choices, the color of what he has become and what he has always, underneath the beige, been moving toward. Skyler wears blue at the beginning. Loyalty, family, trust, the color of a woman who believes in the life she built and the man she built it with. As she becomes complicit in Walter's crimes, laundering money, lying to her sister, becoming, slowly and against her will, a participant in the empire. Her wardrobe shifts toward green, the color of money, of moral ambiguity, of a woman changed by proximity to something she never chose. By the time Skyler is running the car wash as a money laundering operation, she is wearing the same colors Walter wore in season 1. They have swapped. He became the darkness. She became the compromise. Jesse wears red consistently, aggressively, throughout the entire series. Red blood. Danger, passion, but also, and this is the part that matters, the color of life. Jesse, despite everything he does, despite every crime he commits, despite every terrible thing he participates in, and every terrible thing done to him, is the most alive character in the show. He feels things. He cries. He rage. He loves. He is messy and emotional and broken and human in a way that Walter, for all his genius, can never quite manage. Hank wears orange, a combination on the color wheel of Walter's yellow and Jesse's red. Hank exists between them, connected to both. He is the bridge that, when destroyed, collapses the entire structure. Marie wears purple throughout the entire series, every scene, every episode, every season. Purple royalty. Delusion. A woman who lives in a slightly different reality from everyone around her. Marie shoplifts. She lies. She creates elaborate fictions about her life, tells strangers she's an astronaut's wife, a doctor's wife. Anything more interesting than what she actually is. Purple is Marie's mask, and she never takes it off. The green of the money, the blue of the meth, the white of the desert, the yellow of the hazmat suits. Every color in Breaking Bad is a word in a visual language that most viewers process without knowing they're processing it. You don't notice that Walter's shirts get darker across 5 seasons. You just feel it. You feel the shift without being able to identify the cause. And that's the point. The show is speaking to you in a language you don't know you're hearing, telling you the story twice. Once in words, once in color. And the color version is the one that gets under your skin. Costume designer Kathleen DeToro maintained charts, literal charts, tracking every character's color progression across every season, every episode, every scene. Each outfit chosen not just for the scene, but for the character's moral position at that exact moment in the story. If you pause Breaking Bad on any frame and look at what everyone is wearing, the colors will tell you who is lying, who is afraid, who is in control, and who is about to do something they cannot take back. The show is always telling you the truth. You just have to know how to read it. Let me talk about the ending. Felina, the series finale, is one of the most debated finales in television history. And I think the debate on both sides misses the point. Felina is an anagram of finale. It is also a reference to the Marty Robbins song El Paso, a ballad about a cowboy who falls in love with a woman named Felina, kills a man out of jealousy, flees to the Badlands, and eventually returns to die. The cowboy knows he's riding back to his death. He rides back anyway, because the alternative living with the leaving is worse than dying with the returning. Walter White follows the same trajectory. He fell in love not with a woman, but with power, with Heisenberg, with the feeling of being alive in a way he had never been alive before. He killed. He fled to New Hampshire, to a cabin in the woods, to a life of isolation and anonymity that is, in its own way, the death he was trying to avoid. And in Felina, he comes back, not to win, not to escape, to settle accounts. He builds a machine gun turret in the trunk of a car and wipes out Jack Welker's gang. He frees Jesse, the one act in the finale that is unambiguously uncomplicatedly good. He calls Lydia and tells her she's been poisoned with ricin because Lydia was going to keep the operation running after his death, and Walter, in his final hours, has decided that the operation ends with him. He visits Skyler one last time and tells her the truth, the real truth, the one he's been avoiding for 62 episodes. I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. And I was alive. And then he walks through the meth lab alone, bleeding from a bullet wound. And he touches the equipment one last time, the stainless steel of the reactor, the glass of the condenser, the instruments he spent 5 seasons treating with more care and more love than he treated any human being in his life. The camera pulls back. His hand leaves a bloody print on the steel. Baby Blue by Badfinger plays. Walter White dies on the floor of a meth lab in Albuquerque, New Mexico, surrounded by the chemistry equipment that was always his truest love. Some fans wanted a darker ending. Walter dying alone, unloved, in a ditch in New Hampshire. No victories, no agency, no final acts of intelligence or will. They felt Felina was too kind, that it gave him too many wins in his final hours, that a man who did what Walter did deserved worse than dying in the place he loved most. Others felt the ending was perfect, that Walter dying in the lab was the only honest conclusion. He didn't die for his family, didn't die fighting the law. He died in the one place where he was fully himself. The lab was where Walter White felt most alive, where Heisenberg was born, and where both of them ended together on the same floor with the same bloodstain. I think the ending is honest, not kind. Honest. Walter gets what he wanted. One last cook. One last act of intelligence. One last moment of being the most dangerous person in the room. But he also gets what he earned. Death. Alone on a floor with nobody to hold his hand. His family is gone. His empire is gone. His money is buried in a desert and will eventually be found by someone who had nothing to do with building it. All that's left is chemistry. And if that image, a man lying on the floor of an empty lab, his hand leaving a bloody mark on the one thing he loved more than anything, doesn't tell you everything about who Walter White really was, then you weren't watching the same show I was. Jesse's ending is different. While Walter dies in the lab, Jesse escapes. He drives away in Todd's El Camino, screaming, crying, laughing, all three at once. The sounds of a human being who has been compressed into something inhuman for so long that the release of pressure is indistinguishable from breaking into the darkness of the New Mexico desert. The most cathartic moment in the finale, not because it's happy. It isn't happy. Jesse is driving away from the wreckage of 5 years of his life, from the bodies of people he loved, from the man who used him and broke him and occasionally, in his way, cared for him. He is driving away from all of it, with nothing except the clothes on his back and the car beneath him and the darkness ahead. But he is driving. He has been enslaved, tortured, beaten, forced to cook meth for months under threat of death, chained to a post in a compound, watching the people he loved die around him. His escape is not elegant, not triumphant in any conventional sense. It is feral, the sound and movement of a caged animal finding the door open and running before anyone can close it again. And the audience, which has spent 5 seasons watching Jesse suffer for Walter's choices, watching him absorb the consequences of decisions he didn't make, watching him pay the price for an empire he never wanted, finally gets to exhale. He made it. Not to happiness, not to safety, not to a life that makes sense yet, but out. He made it out. Gilligan made an entire film about what happens next. El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie, released in 2019 on Netflix, follows Jesse in the immediate aftermath of his escape. Quieter than the show, more contemplative, less kinetic. It moves at the pace of a man who has been running for so long that he has forgotten how to be still, and is learning, slowly, painfully, what stillness feels like. The film gives Jesse something Walter never got: the possibility of a future, not a guaranteed happy ending, not a clean slate, not the erasure of everything that happened, just a door. A door that might lead somewhere, a choice that isn't made under duress, that isn't made at gunpoint, that isn't made because the alternative is death, just a choice. And after 62 episodes of watching Jesse's doors get slammed shut one after another, after watching every escape route close, every relationship end in loss, every moment of hope become the setup for a deeper despair. A door that stays open feels like a miracle. It feels like enough. Now let me talk about what Breaking Bad did to the world. Because the show's cultural impact is not just about the show, it's about what the show proved was possible about audiences, about television, about the relationship between a story and the people who consume it. Before Breaking Bad, the anti-hero drama was already an established form. The Sopranos had pioneered it, taken the crime drama and turned it inward, asked what it meant to root for a man who ordered murders between therapy sessions. The Wire had built a show that was less about characters than about systems, about the institutions that shape human behavior and the human beings shaped by them. Mad Men had made moral ambiguity beautiful, turned the anti-hero into a figure of style. But Breaking Bad did something none of those shows managed. It became genuinely, massively, globally popular, not just critically acclaimed, not just an Emmy darling, popular in the way that sitcoms and reality shows are popular, the way that means your neighbor is watching it, your coworker is talking about it Monday morning. The show has escaped the category of prestige television and become simply television, simply a thing that people watch. Breaking Bad made difficult, morally complex television mainstream. The show premiered in January 2008 to 1.4 million viewers. Not a large number. A moderately successful network procedural in 2008 was drawing 10 to 12 million viewers per episode. 1.4 million was by the standards of the time. A modest debut for a cable drama promising, perhaps worth continuing, not a phenomenon. It ended in September 2013 with over 10 million viewers watching the finale live. A 7-fold increase across 5 seasons. That growth curve sustained. Consistent, accelerating, is unprecedented for a drama this dark. Most shows that start dark lose viewers as they get darker. Audiences have limits. They reach a point where the darkness stops feeling meaningful and starts feeling punishing. And they leave. Breaking Bad didn't lose viewers as it got darker. It gained them. Every season was bigger than the last. Every season pushed further into moral territory that should have driven audiences away, and they came running. The reason is streaming. Netflix began carrying Breaking Bad during its original run, and new viewers discovered the show between seasons. They binged, caught up, watched 4 seasons in a weekend, and then joined the live audience for season 5, arriving already invested, already converted, already evangelical about the show in the way that only people who have discovered something late and consumed it all at once can be evangelical. Breaking Bad is arguably the first show that was saved by binge watching. Gilligan has said this directly. Netflix kept us on the air. The streaming platform's audience supplemented the live ratings enough to justify AMC's continued investment in a show that was never, by traditional metrics, a hit. Without Netflix, Breaking Bad might have been canceled after season 3. Instead, it became the most talked about show on television by season 5. Because millions of people had discovered it through streaming and were now watching live for the first time, bringing everyone they knew with them. This dynamic streaming discovery fueling live viewership, late adopters, becoming the show's most passionate advocates was new in 2012. It has since become the standard model for prestige television. Every show that builds its audience slowly, Succession, Severance, Yellow Jackets. The Bear owes a structural debt to Breaking Bad for proving the model works, for showing that a show doesn't have to premiere big to become enormous, that the audience can find the show, rather than the show finding the audience. Breaking Bad also spawned something that barely existed before it, the forensic fan. Fans who didn't just watch the show, but decoded it, who tracked color patterns across seasons and built spreadsheets, who analyzed dialogue for hidden meanings, built theories about the teddy bear and the oranges and the recurring visual motifs, who created a participatory culture around the show that turned every episode into a communal puzzle-solving exercise, a thing to be discussed and debated and dissected. Not just experienced. This behavior, active, analytical, almost academic engagement with a television show barely existed before Breaking Bad and The Sopranos. It is now the default mode of engagement for prestige television. Every show with a dedicated online fandom, every show that generates theory videos and reaction content and deep dive analysis is operating in a cultural space that Breaking Bad helped create. The show taught audiences that television could reward that kind of attention, that there were things hidden in the frame, in the wardrobe, in the dialogue that repaid close looking, that a show could be watched and also read, that the surface and the depth were different things. And the depth was worth finding. Say my name. I am the one who knocks. I am the danger. Tread lightly. You're goddamn right. Breaking Bad generated more quotable lines per season than almost any show in television history. These phrases entered the cultural vocabulary used by people who have never seen the show, who encountered them as memes, as references, as the cultural shorthand of a generation that processed its relationship to power and ambition and moral compromise through the language of a chemistry teacher in Albuquerque. Walter White's language became America's language, which is either a tribute to good writing or a troubling commentary on what America finds aspirational. Probably both. A few more things before we wind down. Small things. The details that make Breaking Bad feel less like a television show and more like a world, the kind that accumulate over 5 seasons, into the feeling that this place is real, that these people existed, that somewhere in the New Mexico desert there is a buried barrel of money and a lab that still smells of chemistry. The pizza. Walter throws a pizza onto the roof of his house after Skyler locks him out. A moment of pure petulance, a man who has built a drug empire, who has murdered people, who has stared down cartel assassins, reduced to throwing a pizza at a roof because his wife won't let him in. Cranston threw a real pizza. It landed on the roof in one take. Perfect. Flat landing the pizza, sliding off the box, and settling on the shingles as if it had always been there. The shot was so good that Gilligan kept it without discussion. The kind of accident that looks like intention. The kind that only happens when the people involved are good enough at their jobs that luck starts to look like skill. The pizza stayed on the actual house's roof for so long that the homeowner eventually had to ask the production to intervene, because fans devoted, enthusiastic, slightly unhinged fans would drive to Albuquerque specifically to throw pizzas onto a stranger's roof, to recreate the shot, to stand in the driveway of a private residence and hurl a pizza at the shingles in tribute to a television moment. The homeowner was not amused. The Say My Name scene. Walter meets a rival drug distributor in the desert and demands to be acknowledged. Not paid, not respected in any material way. Acknowledged, named, you know who I am. The other man hesitates. Say my name, Heisenberg. You're goddamn right. The scene was originally written as a longer negotiation, a back and forth, an establishment of terms, a scene that did the work of explaining the power dynamic through dialogue. Cranston and Gilligan agreed to cut it down, strip it to the essential exchange, remove everything except the demand and the compliance. The shorter version is more powerful because it doesn't explain, it demands, and the demand is granted. Because by season 5, everyone in the show, including the audience, has learned that when Walter White tells you to do something, you do it. 30 seconds long. One of the most memorable 30 seconds in the series. The teddy bear A burned pink teddy bear with one eye missing appears in flash-forward sequences throughout Season 2. Its eye floats in Walter's pool. The bear drifts through the season as a mystery. What is it? Where did it come from? What does it mean? The answer arrives at the end of the season. The bear is debris from the Wayfarer 515 plane crash, the crash caused by Donald Margolis's grief, the grief caused by Jane's death, the death caused by Walter's choice to stand in a doorway and do nothing. The bear is innocence destroyed, childhood burned, something soft and harmless turned grotesque by proximity to violence. It is the physical shape of collateral damage, the thing that was not supposed to be hurt, that had nothing to do with any of it, that ended up in Walter's pool because of a chain of causation that started with a man deciding that a young woman's life was less important than his convenience. The bear has one eye. It sees everything. The Pontiac Aztec, Walter's car, deliberately chosen as the most uncool car in America, a vehicle so comprehensively aesthetically failed that it became a kind of cultural monument to the gap between ambition and execution. The Aztec was designed to be revolutionary. It ended up being a punchline. Walter drives it because it is him. The physical manifestation of his self-image at the beginning of the series, a man who has given up on being seen, who doesn't care what he drives because he doesn't care about himself, who has made peace with being the Pontiac Aztec of people. Beige, ugly, functional, forgettable. By Season 5, Walter drives a Chrysler 300 Black, powerful, anonymous in a different way. The car of a man who has decided to be seen, but on his own terms. The cars tell the story. Bryan Cranston shaved his own head on camera. The show filmed it, the slow, deliberate removal of the last vestige of Walter White's ordinary appearance. The hair that made him look like a teacher, like a father, like a man you might see at a parent-teacher conference or a grocery store. The hair that made him look like someone you wouldn't be afraid of. When the hair comes off and Heisenberg looks back from the mirror, it is not a costume change. It is a shedding, a snake leaving its skin. The old self sloughed away, the new self emerging harder, darker, more itself than the thing it replaced. The man in the mirror is not Walter White. Walter White had hair. Walter White apologized with his eyes. Walter White made himself small so that other people could feel comfortable. Heisenberg has a scalp and a goatee and eyes that have stopped apologizing. Albuquerque. The show turned a mid-sized southwestern city into a character before Breaking Bad. Albuquerque was mostly known for hot air balloons and green chile and being the place you flew through on the way to somewhere else. After Breaking Bad, it was known for meth, for murder, for the most stunning desert cinematography in television history, for the particular quality of New Mexico light, the way it falls on adobe and sand and the distant mountains, the way it makes everything look simultaneously, beautiful and desolate. The city embraced the show with an enthusiasm that was, depending on your perspective, either charming or slightly alarming. Breaking Bad tours, A statue of Walter and Jesse outside the Albuquerque Convention Center. Multiple businesses selling Blue Rock candy packaged to look like Heisenberg's methamphetamine, which is either a tribute to creative entrepreneurship or a sign that we have collectively lost the thread somewhere. The relationship between the city and the show is genuinely symbiotic. Albuquerque gave Breaking Bad its desert and its light, the vast, indifferent landscape the show needed. The sense of space and silence and the particular loneliness of the American Southwest. And Breaking Bad gave Albuquerque an identity, a story, a reason for people to come and stand in the driveway of a house and throw pizzas at the roof. The homeowner remains unamused. The show ran for 62 episodes across 5 seasons. 62. That number matters not because it's large, but because of what it contains. 62 hours, roughly, of a single story told with a consistency of vision and a precision of execution that is almost without precedent in the medium. 62 hours in which a man transforms from a high school chemistry teacher into a drug lord, and back into something that is neither something that has no name because it has never existed before. It premiered in January 2008 to 1.4 million viewers. It ended in September 2013 with over 10 million. The audience grew every season. Rare for any show. Almost unheard of for a show this dark, this morally uncompromising, this unwilling to give its audience the comfort of a protagonist they can root for without reservation. Breaking Bad didn't lose viewers as it got darker. It gained them. People heard what was happening and came running, not away from the darkness, toward it. Because Gilligan understood something about audiences that most creators don't. People don't want comfort. They want truth. And the truth, even when it's ugly, even when it makes you complicit, even when it asks you to root for a man who poisons children and watches women choke and builds an empire on the suffering of people he has convinced himself don't matter. The truth is more addictive than any lie. Before we go, one last thing. Vince Gilligan was once asked if Walter White had never gotten the cancer diagnosis, what would his life have looked like? Gilligan thought about it for a long time. Then he said, exactly the same, just quieter. Walter White didn't need cancer to become Heisenberg. He needed permission. The cancer was just the first time he gave himself permission to say yes to the thing he had always wanted. The first time the cost of saying yes was lower than the cost of saying no. The first time the consequences, the social contract, the mortgage, the fear of what people would think seemed less real than the life he wasn't living. We all have a Walter White inside us. Not the myth, not the murder, not the empire built in the desert, the resentment, the quiet fury of a life that didn't go the way it was supposed to. The feeling of standing in a parking lot with a chemistry degree and a lifetime of wasted potential and thinking, I could have been something, I should have been something. The world owed me something and it never paid. Most of us never get the diagnosis that sets that feeling free. Most of us carry it quietly in beige and khaki, driving our Pontiac Aztecs to jobs that don't deserve us, smiling politely while being laughed at, filing the resentment away in the place where resentment goes when it has nowhere else to go. Walter White got the diagnosis, and he said, yes, that's either a cautionary tale or a tragedy. Maybe it's both. Maybe the difference between a cautionary tale and a tragedy is just whether you're watching from the outside or the inside. And now, the scene we've been waiting for. The scene Bryan Cranston has never been able to watch twice. It isn't in the final season. Isn't Ozymandias. Isn't the confession in the kitchen. Isn't the phone call. Isn't any of the scenes that announce themselves as important, that arrive with music and camera moves and the full weight of the show's dramatic machinery behind them. It's season 2, episode 12. The moment Walter stands at Jane's bedside. Jane is Jesse's girlfriend, 27 years old, a tattoo artist, a woman in recovery from heroin addiction who has relapsed because of her relationship with Jesse, because love and drugs arrived at the same time and she couldn't separate them. She is asleep. She is overdosing. And in the middle of the night, she begins to choke the way addicts sometimes do in their sleep. When the drugs take hold and the body's reflexes slow and there is no one there to turn them over, Walter is standing right there. He came to Jesse's apartment to talk to Jesse, found Jane instead. He is standing at the bedside of a young woman who is dying, who could be saved by the simplest possible intervention, by turning her onto her side, by calling 911, by doing anything except what he does. He watches her, Dee, stands there and watches her die and does not move and does not call for help, and when it is over, he leaves. Cranston has said that filming that scene required him to access something he didn't want to access. Not darkness, he had accessed darkness before, found it and used it and put it away. Not evil. Evil is a costume, a choice, a performance, something worse than either of those things. Indifference, the specific, cold, terrible indifference of a man who looks at a human being dying in front of him and calculates whether saving her is worth the cost, who runs the numbers, who decides, in the time it takes to make a decision, that Jane's life is worth less than the inconvenience of her continued existence, who watches her die with the same numbness he will later bring to a school assembly about a plane crash. I found it, Cranston said, and I didn't like that I found it so easily. He has never watched that scene back because he doesn't want to see himself find it again. Because some things, once found, cannot be unfound. And some performances are less like acting and more like excavation, like reaching into yourself and pulling out something that was always there, that you hoped wasn't there, that you would have preferred to leave undiscovered. That is the scene. That is what Bryan Cranston cannot watch. Not because it's violent, not because it's shocking, because it's true. Walter White died on a floor in a meth lab in Albuquerque, New Mexico, listening to Baby Blue, his hand leaving a mark on the one thing he ever truly loved. He was 52 years old. He had been a teacher, a husband, a father, a drug lord, a murderer, a genius, and a liar. He had been the most unforgettable character in the history of television drama. He had been the worst person many of us have ever rooted for, and he had been. Underneath all of it, underneath the Heisenberg hat and the goatee and the eyes that had stopped apologizing, a man who wanted to matter, who wanted to be seen, who wanted to stand in a room and have the room know that he was there. That's not a monster. That's a human being. The monster was just what happened when the human being ran out of better options, or decided the better options weren't worth the wait. That's Breaking Bad. Not the myth, not the money, not the empire built in the desert out of chemistry and arrogance and the absolute refusal to be ordinary. The show is about the lie we tell ourselves. The lie that we would be different, that we wouldn't make those choices, that if we were standing in that parking lot with a cancer diagnosis and a chemistry degree and a lifetime of wasted potential, we would choose the smaller life. We would choose the beige. We would choose the Pontiac Aztec and the teacher's salary and the quiet fury that never gets expressed. We wouldn't. That's the secret. The show whispers to you in the dark. When the house is quiet and the day is over and you're lying somewhere between wakefulness and sleep, we wouldn't choose differently. We'd tell ourselves we were doing it for our family. We'd believe it. And by the time we realized it was a lie, we'd already be standing in a desert, watching something die, wondering how we got here. The desert is quiet now. The lab is empty. The empire is dust, the way all empires eventually become dust. The way the poems said they would. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains, only the desert, and the silence, and somewhere far away, a car driving north into the darkness, carrying someone who made it out. Let that be enough. Let the story rest now. Let the chemistry go still. You've been here for a while in this world, with these people, in this desert. Time to leave it behind. Time to let the empire crumble quietly, the way it always was going to. Time to let Walter White be what he always was, a story, a warning, a mirror, and mirrors in the dark show you nothing. Only the dark, which is, tonight, exactly what you need. Sleep well. There's always more lore to tell. But for now, tread lightly.